Cameraman. This is Jim's bag of stuff that you've amassed over the 10 years of doing trivia. Right. We've got Ziploc bags full of different cables, connectors, adapters.
Actually, I have a manual score sheet.
Oh.
So that if the computer dies, you can still keep score. It's like a grid. So an extra cable to connect the computer to the mixer. I always have an extra microphone cord with me as well. If the computer dies, I can always use my iPhone or iPod.
Sure. And
I keep a trivia playlist just in reserve on there.
Preparation, that's important. As a trivia host, what I would go through, I start my day, if I'm not writing questions, I'm checking them out, I'm reading them, I'm looking for words I can't pronounce, I'm looking for wrong answers, I'm downloading, I'm getting my music playlist set so I don't have to fill with it at the show. You have to be a people person. We deal with the public all the time. There's nobody else that's going to step in, so you have to be a good people person, handle the problems and whatnot. Second thing, you have to be able to multitask because you're not just sitting there asking questions, but you're keeping score, playing music, interacting with the management, interacting with the teams.
Okay.
And I'm always afraid that something's going to go wrong.
That cord's going to be missing when you get there.
And it's not just electronic stuff. I have old trivia shows in here. Sometimes, every once in a while, I'll print out some from nights that I don't work and just keep a file of them. If I have to reach back, I can grab an extra trivia question. I always download the questions as early as I can during the day because I want to take enough time. And like a lot of trivia hosts, I have a day job, so sometimes it's hard to do that, but I always try to find some time during the day to download them, to review the questions, make sure I'm prepared, to understand if there are any weird pronunciations, to read ahead, but mostly to look and see what questions are going to give me trouble that night in terms of the teams. What are they going to challenge me on? Are they going to look at it from a different standpoint that we are?
Do prompt. Prompt is very important.
Now, wait a minute.
What is time? Okay. Be on time. Be early. Very early.
I arrive early at my venue to check out my equipment. I'm plugged in.
Best advice certainly for new hosts is to stay on script, read the question, and hit play. Don't try to test your new joke out on a group of relatively sober people. If you want to test your jokes out, wait till later in the evening.
Always read through the questions at least once or twice before the show. And I tend to, when I download them, read through them one time, get to the show, read through them again, just so you know, because you might have some mistakes every once in a while. Nobody's perfect. There might be a typo or two. Yeah. You're going to have to figure out, if you don't read it, you're going to have to figure out on the spot how to fix that mistake.
So, guys, before you start, you want to get all the team names into the computer, especially if you've got a busy show. That way, when the first question comes, you don't have just 5 minutes to input 15 team names. And keep score for them. If you can go ahead and get the team names typed into the computer, then all you got to do is keep score. Certainly. Make sure after you read the question that you're on that you read to yourself the following question, so you know it's kind of a one last check of what you're going to be reading out loud, because you don't want to fumble. That another bad reputation of trivia hosts, not being able to read.
Checking the sound, checking the PAs. If I run into a problem, the first person I'm calling is the owner of the Trivia Factory.
You do. Let's say there's 20 minutes before the show starts, and you know you're not going to be there on time. What do you do?
Always call the boss. That's the best way to go, because then you can call the venue.
Yeah, exactly.
And let them know, because if they don't know, they're going to freak out.
And call me and say, where the hell are you?
Exactly.
Right. Things that I'd do, first of all, I'd call the boss.
Okay.
Yeah, and say, what do I do? The second thing is there's all kinds of different disasters. There's equipment disasters. I had an amplifier here burn up one time, and I had 20 teams. So basically what I did is I walked around and announced at both ends of the dining room the questions, and then they came and brought them up. I didn't have a scorekeeper that particular night, so I had to announce it and run back here and take the scores. So I made a joke out of it. I took the microphone cord off. I carried the microphone around
without the cord
on it. And you just have to want to make sure that they all walk out of there saying, I had a great time.
Well, one of the things I'd say is about what you wear to a show. We're very relaxed in what we wear. We can wear T-shirts and polos, but you want to make sure you look nice. So you want to be showered, your teeth are brushed, your hair's combed, if you got some.
The basics.
Or, it's shaved, But, clothes. You don't want ripped up clothes. You don't want stained clothes. You want to look nice. I mean, your T-shirt doesn't have to be tucked in all the time, but you've got to be presentable, not only for the management of a venue, but to the teams. They don't want to think you're just some Joe off the street running trivia.
Just about to say, you're demonstrating perfect technique.
Yes. It's important because projection, as you can see here, I'm speaking, but the sound is going over the mic and it's picking up.
It's not going into the mic because if
you don't have to, talk like this.
Vanilla ice it.
And if you start moving it down, you could see.
Sure.
You start losing sound.
We're using a dynamic mic, and the dynamic mic is meant to be held near the mouth. And there you go. So the mic is basically resting on your chin.
Number one, enunciation. You have to be very loud, very clear. What I like to do is talk to the person in the back of the room like you don't have a mic, but into the mic. Very clear, talk loud like you don't even need a mic. But then you put the mic there, and then you get the extra sound.
When you do that, projecting, it comes from your diaphragm.
From the guts.
Yes. It's not up here near your nose or in your chest. It's from your diaphragm. So breathe. The first thing I tell a new trivia host is practice. When you're at home, get a set of questions, get on a mic, and listen to yourself on it.
Plug it into the home stereo.
Yes. Because if you don't know how you sound like on a mic, then when you're at a show, if you're soft, teams are going to come and say, I can't hear you. And it's big. So practicing deliverance of the questions, talking on the mic is huge. That's a big tip.
Well, one big thing that I like to do is pauses. Pretend like there are more commas in the sentence than there are. That. There could be no commas in the sentence, but what city in Wyoming? And when you say what, make sure what, who,
is prominent,
where. That's very prominent because that's what they need to know that they're answering. They're answering the what. Exactly. That's what they're answering. So make sure that's prominent. Read it through very slow the first time. Second time you can go, maybe go a little bit faster, to kind of get it out there, but make sure you enunciate. Like I said, it's very important.
Pauses.
Yeah, exactly. Pauses.
You don't have to sit there and give, if you found it's funny to do a Casey Kasem and that's your stick, go with it. But if it's not, at least talk like you're talking to people. Don't think you have to sit there and be a Charlie Brown teacher.
Sure.
That is so boring. So just be yourself.
Highly anticipated answers because they don't know the right answer, but it's a guess. And it's usually a good logical guess. And a lot of teams end up getting the right answer, but they don't know they have the right answer.
They're waiting for your confirmation.
So they're waiting for our confirmation, and that's the kind that most of the time they're going to feel very victorious. That's when they do the high fives and the yelling and screaming. So usually about once or twice a night you'll have a question like that, and you can have a lot of fun with it. So in this case, we asked what country has the tallest building in Africa. One of my phrases is, this is one that you didn't want to overthink. I'll read it, I'll give it a little bit more of a dramatic pause, and then finally say, it's Johannesburg, South Africa. Give yourself the points. Give yourself a round of applause if you got it.
And so I'm going to trick everybody and tell them the answer is a different answer to the right answer. All right, question number 19, geography, the category for 9 points. In what country would you find the sacred site of Ayers Rock? We only had a few teams get this right. The correct answer is Ireland. I'm just kidding. It's not Ireland. I'm so sorry. Like everyone put Ireland, but that's not right. That's the Blarney Stone is what you're thinking of. Damn. The answer to our question is Australia. Way to go.
All you have to do is watch
Who Wants to Be a Millionaire?
Who Wants to Be a Millionaire or American Idol and know that, you say, come on, give me the answer because we're waiting.
Oh, yes. I know where I need to give pauses and breaks, what words to emphasize. So I'm going over the questions, these times. I'm reading in my mind, so I'm thinking about what problems are going to come up.
Sure.
So I'm visualizing. So not only am I just reading the question 7 times, but I'm thinking about what songs I could play, what problems could happen. So it all works together. So when I actually enter a show and a problem happens, it flows. It's not an issue.
And I think the last thing is you don't have to have a radio voice or you don't have to be.
Thank you for saying that.
Right. You don't have to be, a game show host.
Practice. I can't say it enough. If you practice at home, practice in front of your family and friends, when you get to a real show, you'll be fine. Get in front of a mirror with a mic, put it on the home stereo, plug in, throw a little Boston on, and you're ready to go.
I know the company policy is always to have no dead air, to keep things moving.
Let's see. Always feel out your crowd. Always, if it's a new place, immediately look at the age bracket, the type of people. Look at their clothes. I mean, if they're wearing cowboy boots and a cowboy hat, play some country music.
Sure,
you know what I'm saying? Stuff like that. Same thing with however fast you're doing the questions.
Because I can tailor the music to the questions. If I think I want to play off of a theme of a question, I can do that.
Cool.
It keeps people interested.
Ask their opinion on the music and what type of questions they like, because some people like sports, some people like TV, some people like movies. Ask them what they want. You got a bunch of people that like movies and sports or country music or rap. That's what, give them that.
Well, if I have a venue like, say, for example, Partners Pizza in Noonan, I know it's a good mix between young and old trivia players. And we're talking about 50, 60, 70-year-old people playing, sometimes 80s playing trivia, and then we'll have our 20 and 30-year-olds. To make a playlist where I'll play music, sometimes even from the 50s all the way up to current music. I will stay away from certain genres like hip-hop because it's not a very wide-based and a lot. So unless I'm going to a specific show where I know it'll fly, then yeah, I'll play hip-hop, but most of the time it's not. It's rock, it's pop, it's country. I'll even play Frank Sinatra, Tony Bennett, just to throw in some wrinkles.
You look out over the audience here tonight, we have 3 or 4 tables of what I would consider college-age kids or even high school kids. We have a couple of tables that are made up of players that are all 60 and above. How do you satisfy them all? So you're not going to actually satisfy them or play the music they might want to hear, but you won't offend them. I have 15 or 20 playlists, but I also shoot from the hip, and depends. A lot of venues, and most of the venues do name the artist.
Sure.
And so you want to keep it moving. It's more noticeable in shows where you have less people.
Yeah. Now, we supply a playlist for all the hosts. The music has something to do with the question in some cases, but if your location does not have adequate internet to stream music from Spotify, make sure that before you go to a trivia show that you have a playlist already set up. It takes a lot of the guesswork out of what song to play next. You look more prepared, you are more prepared, and the show runs a lot more smoothly instead of you searching for the next song every time. Let's say there's an issue with an answer, or maybe you score the question wrong. You don't have any time to go back and get your music. So I've got this is a 6-minute song. Now I would never, well, I shouldn't say never, but I would hardly ever play a full 6-minute song, especially when we're just starting. We don't want people to get too bored. So really have already played 4 minutes, which is good enough for me. I've got most of my teams in. I'm going to go ahead and give a 30-second warning and then go right into answering this question. All right, guys, 30 seconds left. You have 30 seconds. Hurry up.